Every year, search teams in the Amazon basin locate small aircraft with the engine cold, the door hanging open, the headset still on the seat, the GPS still powered, the last flight log entry written mid-sentence. The plane isn't destroyed. There's no fire, no impact crater, no sign of violence. The pilot is simply gone. Not missing, not rescued. Gone, as if the jungle absorbed them whole and closed back over without a mark. I spent weeks going through Sinapa reports, Brazilian Air Force incident files, and accounts from bush pilots who have flown those routes for decades. What I found doesn't explain the disappearances. It explains why they keep happening, and why they almost certainly won't stop. Most pilots who disappear over the Amazon are not beginners. They are experienced, licensed, and flying routes they have flown before. That's the first thing that surprises people. The problem is that the Amazon creates weather events that don't appear on any forecast model. Thunderstorms build in under 20 minutes. A clear corridor at altitude becomes a wall of cumulonimbus with zero warning. Pilots who trained in Europe or North America, where weather moves predictably and radar coverage is dense, enter the basin with the wrong mental model. The sky behaves by different rules here, and the jungle doesn't broadcast that information in advance. When a pilot flies into a storm cell at low altitude over the Amazon, the sequence of events is fast and non-survivable, but the wreckage is absorbed. The canopy closes. The transponder stops transmitting. From the outside, the plane simply vanished. The Amazon basin covers 5.5 million square kilometers. The tree canopy in dense forest reaches 40 to 50 meters high and is so thick that a downed aircraft becomes invisible from the air within weeks, sometimes days, as vegetation grows over it. Brazil has search and rescue assets, but they are concentrated near population centers. A pilot who goes down 200 kilometers from the nearest city is, for practical purposes, unreachable. The search window is measured in hours before conditions make aerial surveillance useless. After 48 hours, the statistical probability of finding a survivor drops to nearly zero, not because rescuers stop trying, but because the jungle actively conceals everything inside it. Several aircraft located years after disappearing were found entirely by accident, by logging crews, by indigenous communities, by satellite imagery analysts reviewing archival data. In most cases, no one was left to find. This is the part no one talks about openly. A small number of aircraft found abandoned in the Amazon were not crash sites. They were deliberate landings. On dirt strips, on dry riverbeds, on stretches of cleared ground that don't appear on any official chart. The pilots weren't victims. They were using the jungle's impenetrability as cover. Drug trafficking routes through the Amazon basin rely on exactly this kind of infrastructure: small planes, unlisted strips, pilots who know that an aircraft abandoned in the right location will never be found, and a flight plan that ends mid-route leaves no useful evidence behind. Some of the mysterious disappearances in official records are, in the dry language of federal investigators, voluntary abandonments of aircraft used in illegal logistics operations. The pilots didn't vanish. They chose to disappear. The Amazon made that choice permanent and invisible. There's a version of this story that aviation culture doesn't like to tell. Sometimes the pilot files a correct flight plan, briefs the weather carefully, carries the right survival equipment, flies a well-maintained aircraft, and still disappears without a trace. The Amazon has regions where GPS signal degrades due to terrain and atmospheric interference. There are areas with no radio coverage where a distress call transmits to nothing. A pilot who experiences a partial engine failure over dense jungle at night has no options that lead to a good outcome. The procedures that work in other environments — declare emergency, squawk 7700, aim for the nearest field — fail when there is no coverage, no field, and no one listening. Several families of missing pilots spent years demanding answers from aviation authorities, only to receive final reports that read, "Aircraft not located. Cause undetermined." The competence of the pilot is not in question. The environment simply offers no margin for anything to go wrong. In 1999, a Brazilian bush pilot named Edson Ferreira flew a routine cargo route from Manaus toward a mining settlement in Pará. He reported turbulence, then requested a heading change. Then he stopped transmitting. His aircraft was found 11 months later, intact on a sandbar 60 kilometers from his filed route. He was not inside it. Investigators concluded that he likely landed the plane deliberately on the sandbar, a controlled emergency landing, and then attempted to walk toward what he believed was a navigable river. The distance between where he landed and where the nearest community was located, in a straight line, was 31 kilometers, through primary jungle. Without a compass reading he could trust, the Amazon does something specific to pilots in distress. It makes every option look the same. From the air, every direction is green. There are no landmarks, no roads visible through the canopy, no geometry of civilization to orient toward. Pilots who survive initial emergencies have reported making navigation decisions that seemed rational at the time and were, in retrospect, the opposite of what they should have done, because the environment strips away the reference points the human brain uses to reason clearly under pressure. The Amazon doesn't just swallow aircraft. Sometimes it swallows the pilot's ability to think, and the plane lands on without them. If you were flying a single-engine aircraft over the Amazon and your engine started running rough 200 kilometers from the nearest airstrip, no radio contact, no GPS lock, a storm building ahead, what would you do? Would you push forward, turn back, or put it down while you still had control? The answer might seem obvious. But every pilot in these files thought the same thing, and made a different choice.